significantly improved. We were actually awarded by CASE, recognized by CASE as the most improved advancement operation nationally last year. So I think those are all good things. Our rankings going up. I hate managing the college to ranking, but let's face it, parents generally look at those, especially those U.S. News and World Report rankings. So we're going to keep working on that. Again, that's geared heavily towards graduation rates. So making sure we're recruiting students who will succeed here, giving them all the support they need. That's really so essential to the college and its future, and to the community that we are a part of. You know, I'm sure you all have read that high school demographics are not good these days, so the high school population is shrinking in the Mid-Atlantic area. It's actually declining nationwide, but it's particularly acute in the Mid-Atlantic region.
Currently underway is the town annexed about 70 acres, the old Walmart property, just on the other side of Washington Plaza there, and also created an enterprise zone working with the county and the state, which basically gives entrepreneurs tax incentives to set up shop in Chestertown. And partly as a result of those efforts, Dixon Valve / KRM, which is really kind of the same thing, is really in the running with the planning stages of creating a new national headquarters for Dixon, which will help retain about 350 jobs in the town and the county, but will also potentially create a new business park that could bring hundreds of new jobs to the town. So those are all things that are happening around the community. If you want to know why I have so many gray hairs after just 3 years and this receding hairline, it's this last item on my list is the Chestertown. You know, I think that's just a fantastic example of if we both have similar goals and paths to achieve those goals, there really can be collaborative opportunities like that that are very meaningful on the ground and also on a financial level, but also philosophically it's neat when the town and the college are on the same page as well.
Well, I mean...
Is that enough?
Yeah, that's enough to start with. I think that the question to you, Chris, is as you look at Sheila's ambitions or the college's ambitions for the waterfront, where do you think the town could help the college execute those? It's
an interesting question. I'd be willing to examine any way that we could help, because anything that happens from really their existing boathouse to Radcliffe Creek will be a tremendous improvement over what's been there for the last how many years. It's been just kind of open land that's really not contributing anything to the town. So anything that they want to do is something that I'm going to support, whether that's co-applying for grants, whether that's trying to work with them to list things that are important to the town. I know in our comprehensive plan, for example, one of the most interesting things about the college's waterfront ambitions is creating a waterfront promenade that traverses through the marina, through
town as well as downtown. Right. Where do you think you could work with the town?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think clearly the waterfront is an area of potential collaboration, and as we evaluate potential uses for Armory, we may need to talk with you all about different uses than maybe were originally contemplated. But I agree with Chris. I think we need to do something, right? And so, so I think that's important, and we're very, very focused on that right now. I think on the northern part of the town, we have some property north of campus, which we would like, and that's a conversation.
There is kind of real and then imagine kind of ways in which the college could be more engaged in what you all are doing as a municipality.
It's always an interesting conundrum. I totally get how the college sometimes gets tunnel vision, because it's a lot of work to keep a college of this size in a very rural area with a liberal arts focus. That's a lot of work to keep that viable, to keep it afloat. And so anything we can do to help with that process is definitely worth our while. In terms of the college assisting, honestly, our biggest challenges are always going to be financial. Whenever we basically have, let's use nice round numbers, about a $4 million a year budget. By the time I'm done paying my police force...
Have more of a presence downtown, for example?
I think that would be nice, yes. I know that the Center for Environment Society, for example, is moving their main operations to Cross Street, right next door to Sultana's new building, and I think that's awesome. I do think that sometimes the college has gone to great lengths, and this isn't just...
We have an amazing attendance at our speaking events and our musical events, and So I do think, and I think and hope that the town appreciates that. I would also like to get more students downtown and have it more of a college town type of an atmosphere. I do think some of the waterfront development will help. The new boathouse will have kind of hanging out space, right? So we'll have a deck and hopefully an outdoor fireplace. And I hear this from students, they would like a place to hang out downtown. And so, sure did. Well, that's a nice, it is inconvenient for the staff, because because I'm in Bunting and those people in particular are seeing me a lot. So, they're going back and forth. But it's certainly something to think about, those discrete functions where there is not, it's some job that require going back and forth 4 or 5 times a day. It's probably.
What can rekindle this relationship? Because I think that we have a lot of ideas, and I'm sure the audience has ideas too, but how do we move this forward? Because these are two very different independent structures that have to kind of work collaboratively.
Right. Yeah. Well, some of the history of that predates me. I saw you had a great column, by the way, for this symposium, which I really appreciated it. I thought it well described,
Is this working?
Yep.
I think it's an interesting idea. My take on that is I feel like those smaller groups, these economic development corporations in this town would be driven primarily by, personalities, and so it's really important on groups like that to make sure you have a continuity in the group. And I also feel like it may be duplicating a lot of other things that are already happening. The town already has a marketing and economic development coordinator. The county already has a marketing and economic development coordinator in Jamie Williams. We've also got the Chamber of Commerce. So I'm amenable to the idea as long as they have a very defined mission that isn't just duplicating what other folks are already trying to do. I really don't know a lot about economic development corporations. I was Googling this yesterday when you gave me this list. And there were some really cool examples where basically it's a nonprofit and groups raised money to help with facade improvements downtown. Now that I could really get behind because we need that big time. I think of like Jane's Church and some of these gorgeous historic structures that just need basically they need the money. And if there was a group of, well-connected individuals that were altruistic and
this really comes back to Washington College it's great to have young entrepreneurs
Mm-hmm. It really is.
and those who have decided that they want to stay in a place like Chestertown. Is there a way, or is there programs now going on at Washington College that could encourage that?
Yeah, Michael Harvey's been doing some good things in that area, and I would love to expand those. I think the fact that the county is laying all this cable for really high capacity,
How do you formally work together? And it doesn't have to be a board member, I guess, but I think the idea is, how do you formalize it? I know that you are meeting for coffee occasionally. Right. I think there's so many moving parts.
Yeah, there are. I mean, I think probably, look, our board deals with, tuition and academic programming and student affairs.
The board of a college, they would be talking about a lot of things that, frankly, as much as I love the college, I don't want to be sitting through a meeting about like tuition increases and decreases.
That take kind of some of the unknown out of the process of permitting.
I think there's a little bit of disinformation, to be honest, out there about how onerous it is to get something approved through our planning commission. I was on the planning commission for many, many years, and if people come and they've looked at our comp plan and they have a good plan that aligns with what we request, be very careful legally and ethically when it comes to things like changing zoning.
I'd like to open it up to the audience for folks who have questions, and I believe we have someone who will be able to hand a mic over to the questioner. If you could identify yourselves with raising of hands.
Don't all jump at once. Oh,
there's a couple coming up. Gina, right in the middle, right?
President Blair mentioned it very briefly about fiber being into the town. My question, I have basically 2 questions. First of all, is the college participating by having the fiber being brought to the campus? And number 2, for the town.
If you all have any other perspectives on that in terms of our involvement.
The college has had high-speed access through University of Maryland co-op. So what we've been doing with FSI has been to...
it looks good, though, Jim.
college is working with FSI by giving them right-of-ways through our campus, and to the hotspot that we have behind on Brown Street, connecting into a larger network for redundancy purposes. So we're working with them collaboratively to facilitate the network. They're in
Fiber downtown, and so the last discussion I had with FTS was that they were going to be running the lines behind the storefronts on High Street because there were so many impediments in the way to run underground cable in front of the stores. So it is coming, and yes, we're going to be involved, and I agree with you. Like, it opens up a whole new world of, small tech-type businesses, which is, I believe, what the county is hoping for, but it also just improve internet services for everybody downtown, which is sorely needed, and we all know that.
Thank you. I'm Margot Tillman from Queen Street. We talk about growth, and one of the things that comes to mind for me in a room full of...
To be really candid with you, like, the town really doesn't have almost any role in how the school system is run. We support our local schools. We raise that money to fix up the campus, but in terms of what actually happens in the schools themselves, it's a county-run system. So it's a little tricky. It's tricky for us, and I agree with you. One of the first things I'm sure your faculty ask when they're looking for where to live
schools,
is,
yeah.
what's the school system like? I have a kid in the school system, a 9th grader, and he's having a great experience. So I do think there's a lot of negative press out there about the school system that isn't necessarily always warranted. Yes, there can be some tricky kids in our public school system, but show me a public school system where that's not the case. It certainly was where I went to school in Fairfax County, Virginia, which is one of the best public school systems in the country. So, I think for the young people that come here, my experience has been, because I came here as a young person, I loved the lifestyle, I loved the access to the water, I love the environment. Those are the kinds of people that you're going to need. The young folks that come are the kind of folks that like the slower pace, like the small town lifestyle, like knowing the person down the street or the person behind the counter at the coffee shop. So I think it's more of a lifestyle choice, and they adapt. They make it work. I know that my wife and I did. And I don't think that there's no hope to bring young people here. I don't agree with that at all. And I am, again, cautiously optimistic that the fiber, that's the kind of thing that could bring a telecommuting young mom and dad into Chestertown. They have a little boat. They want to get on the river every day. They don't want to go into D.C. They can work remotely. That's why the fiber, to me, is so potentially exciting. I'm a believe it when I see it kind of guy, but it's certainly, the infrastructure certainly has that potential.
How about your thoughts about?
Well, it is, I just agree with what Chris said. I think it's a common question. I think there's a perception that's not fair, that the Kent County schools are weak. I think you've got a very dynamic new superintendent. We had
No
her to
doubt.
campus last year, and she's, all the metrics are on the right trajectory there. So I think that's, I certainly encourage faculty and staff, we don't require it, but it's to live here and try out the schools. Because I do think it's a problem. It's a problem. It's in a negative cycle, and the more families move outside the county, the weaker the system becomes because they don't have the student body. So, but I'm very impressed with her, and so I think we encourage people to stay here, live here if they can, and certainly not be guided by a decision on where the schools are.
I think it's worth noting that I think 35 teachers in our system here are Washington College
Yes,
graduates.
that's right.
So
That's great.
it's a good
That's a
sign.
big-
That's
a
a
big
good
number.
sign, very good sign.
There's a couple of,
Oh, yeah, thank you. Many colleges and universities throughout the country make
Assessing students a dollar amount would not help us. I don't think it would help us with recruitment. I don't think it would help us with family perception about what they're paying for. We do want to partner with the town on growth opportunities. I think, again, it gets the question, you want to redefine the pie, or do you want to try to grow the pie for everyone? So I'm very uncomfortable with it. We did some analysis last year when it came up. I believe most of the schools that had that were, first of all, wealthier than we are in larger urban areas where the value of the land was really quite much more significant. I do want to emphasize that if the land we own, if it's not used for educational purposes, we do pay taxes. So I don't know what the exact dollar amount is, but we do. It's not that everything we own is tax-free. That's tax exempt. That's not the case. It's only the land where we have educational usage that we have this, and that's true of any nonprofit. And I do think it's, I kind of, the other question is, well, why, this is a standard benefit for nonprofits, and you're asking us, but you're not asking the other nonprofits here, and I'm not suggesting that. I just think that's the wrong way to look at this, that I think that's a divisive issue that will not go well with our students and families, which is counterproductive for everybody, and I think it distracts from really great areas where we can work together, like, getting $500,000 extra dollars out of the Senate capital budget for the marina.
It's a very tough issue for me because any pilot payment that a college makes is voluntary. It has to come from them. Like, I can pick that fight, but if they just say, hey, we feel like we do enough, I mean, I'm just going to be ripping open a wound every time I do it and exacerbating relationships to the negative side of the spectrum. I do think the college, they do uniquely put some stress on our infrastructure. No other nonprofit has 1,400 18 to 22-year-old kids living in town for 8 months out of the year. So I don't feel like it's apples and apples comparing the college to, River Arts or another nonprofit. So, if you think of the 1,400 kids and how often our police are responding to calls for off-campus parties, or just the traffic that generates coming into and out of the campus on a daily basis, it's significant. So I don't think that the discussion is without merit. But again, I also have to respect the fact that the college is a huge asset for Chestertown. They're our largest employer. They have this gorgeous campus that's meticulously maintained. They have special events like you're sitting in right now that are an incredible quality of life addition for all of our residents. They bring people that retire here largely because there's a college. So I do think overall the economic benefits way outweigh the lack of a pilot payment. And if the college is willing to go to bat for us when we really need funding, like for the marina, then I do agree with Sheila that that could be a way to kind of avoid this kind of annual fee, but maybe on an opportunistic level we could work together if they could help us raise money for important projects that we both feel are important. So it's a tough one. It's a tough one for me. It's a PR nightmare that I'm only going to lose, and I got to pick my battles.
We have a couple more questions up there. Mic people?
I don't know who you're pointing to.
I know the person on my left also has a question. Sorry.
Twofer.
I know that the University of Maryland.
I feel like that battle is better fought, not to duck out of the battle. I'm actually going to fight to maintain. Really what it's about is maintaining inpatient beds at the end of the day and not having it be a freestanding medical facility like a glorified ER. So I'll do everything I can to advocate to keep those services, but I really need, that's an issue where I need the commissioners to be fighting with me. I need our state delegation to be fighting with me because it's way bigger than Chestertown. And when we are unified, and the college was very proactive speaking at the meeting, they've come to several of the meetings of the doctors. And again, I just think the most critical thing as a county is to show a unified front, starting with the mayor up to the state delegation, including our large employers. And if we can continue to do that, ultimately it's probably going to come down to a negotiation of how many inpatient beds is the state willing to subsidize, if you believe the figures on the P&L statements and whatnot. So it's a really critical issue, and again, it's a little frustrating for me because I don't control what UMMS does, but we can put as much PR pressure, and that was the beauty of that meeting. We intentionally scheduled it at the fire hall, hoping that way too many people would show up, because it created one hell of a spectacle. It was on the cover of every regional paper, and that's the kind of thing UMMS really hates. So that was a check in our box.
Yeah, we were all in on that too, and
Yeah.
sent out, there were a lot of Washington College people at that event, and I've personally spoken against it to people in Annapolis. I think it's would be devastating. And we use that hospital, we we use the inpatient services, we use the outpatient services, and we've told them we're happy to work with them to see if we can give them more business. I've offered, they can do healthcare on campus. I mean, we're happy to try to do things that will make their economics work better. I got to tell you, I worry about whether the will's there. You know, we kind of make these offers, and you would think they would be wanting to drum up business, but, you know, if your mindset is, well, we want to close this, maybe they don't want to show that there's bigger volume. So I think we need to be very vigilant on that issue and continue to speak up about it. And Chris is absolutely right. This is bigger than Chestertown, but the support of our state legislators is absolutely essential.
And I will say they have been very proactive as well.
We had a couple more questions in that bid section, I believe. Anyone else?
We've got to be careful about her.
Is this on? I'm Wendy Costa, and I wanted to address the question about the schools.
Thanks. Mine was not really a question either. Like Wendy, I wanted to come
To market Chestertown. I like that. That's a good idea.
We had a couple more.
Glenn.
Is there anything on either of your radars about a conference center, hotel, either?
For something till we're blue in the face, and if it doesn't work economically, it's not going to happen. So I think it's in the preliminary stages. I know that the Main Street folks are exploring people to talk to that could potentially make that happen. But if there was a proposal that made sense, I would be absolutely fired up to have that happen. It's just a matter of finding the person or the investors willing to take that step.
Yeah. No, I think so. We would certainly be open if a hotel developer wanted to use that to buy the Armory. That would be, I assume the town would be supportive of that. Because it's an historic structure and you've got some limitations of what you can do. They may or may not be an attractive development opportunity for an hotelier, so which is also why we're trying to think of other options. And I don't know if we're going to do a residence hall, but I think one thing, if we did that, we want to vet that with a lot of people and talk with students. But in the summer, I would love to have executive conferences. You know, I know a lot of people in the corporate community, so does my board. It'd be a perfect place for corporate retreats, executive education. You know, we have a fabulous thing called Chesapeake Summer for our students. We're thinking maybe we could do a mini Chesapeake Summer for alums and things and use that as a potential facility. So that would, again, it's a kind of mixed-use idea, but it would bring traffic to Chestertown in the summer. And maybe another thing to think about, because I'm not sure how attractive the Armory will be for a hotel, but we're certainly very open to it. We would love to solicit interest in that, but we'll just see if it really, as you say, if the economics work for that use, or if a better location would be.
I have a question for one more. Carla, could you wait for the mic?
You're totally cool. Thank you. I want to pick up on the comment about perception, and I think it's very important because I think some really wonderful things have happened in this town with the college, with the town, with private citizens, and you look to the hospital.
Can't thank you enough.
No problem.
Mr. Mayor,
My
Madam.
pleasure. It's great. Thank you for
And
sponsoring it.
hopefully we can come back next year and
There
see
you
where
go.
we
Make it an
are.
annual
Is
event.
that all right? Okay.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.